except, yeah, with the exception of like what you helped me out with a couple weeks ago, which was amazing, by the way.
That was fun.
Being able to have that mindset of like, okay, I'm watching this whole crowd. We know we're here for an interview. We know we're here for celebrating this specific thing, but what does the crowd react to when this person who we're here for is speaking? Or what, you know, did you run up the stairs to go get this amazing shot of like the sun streaming into this room while they were doing this really cool building piece where like the sawdust is slow-mo, and like you got all these amazing shots, which I appreciate, but also it was like, how do you know what's about to happen?
Sure.
You don't. And so knowing how to look around and anticipate that, or even just be curious, like I think it can be so boring to go into something and assume what it's going to be. And I think the assumption of what you want a shoot to be, or the assumption of what you think a shoot will be, like we were joking about this the other day, some of the clients that are our absolute favorite, or that we have the deepest emotional connection with, came from industries that we never thought would be fun or interesting or creative. It's like, we're working with like a medical billing company. How are they our most engaged and like, you know, besties now, compared to, and we've had great clients all around, but you think like, oh, we're going to go into this like design industry and everyone will be artsy and that's who's going to appreciate us. And then really it's like, who are you as people? Do we align as human beings for something like, hey, yeah, I could make this, but also as an artist, I want to protect my integrity too, and not just copy somebody else's work. And I'm listening to you talk about your business and listening to you talk about your team and what's important to you and your home life and who you are, and what you're asking for doesn't sound like you. And if you're selling to or talking to people who know you, they're going to sniff that out in 2 seconds, and then it's not even going to be helpful to you, and you're spending money and time. It's all just so twisty.
Yeah, I've seen that happen where we've worked with clients, and whether, you know, you've seen them kind of get taken by others previous to you, whether it's on websites or previous video work done. You're like, oh my word, I can't believe someone got paid to create that, you know, and not in a critical way, but it's just like, there are some people who just don't care, and it's just a turnkey thing. And I don't know, I was thinking too, like when we were talking about like doing a little bit of everything, it's like, at least in our market in Spokane, it's like you can't silo yourself into just being a DP or just being a director or just being an editor. That's really hard to make a living in this market doing that. Now, if you're in a different place like LA, or I don't know, a larger market.
Yeah, probably even Seattle and Portland. And
you could probably get away with that, but it's like, you know, the reality is here is if you're going to make a living doing it and support your family or yourself or your, you know, whatever, then you got to be willing to do, you know, the one-man band thing or whatever it is to some extent. And then if there are projects where you do need a team, you meet awesome other videographers, you know, around you that, again, align with what you're doing and know are going to represent you well. You're, you know, on set and or on location or whatever, and work with them and hire them, you know, as needed as part of your team. And you know that they're not going to like try to snipe business you know, from you or
if you
whatever.
Don't take that client after this and be so mad. No, but it is, I mean, now it's fun to have you guys have a relationship with them too, because like it would just be fun to collaborate in general more often. And that is the beauty of this like weird small-ish market. But it also is really hard to not, I'm so grateful that it's like that, because it would be very, very easy to also have all this weird competition. And there is that, which is tricky, but I just don't see the benefit of that. The same way as wedding industries. I'm like, what? The competition drove me nuts. Just was like,
there's an abundance of people that need video. We're fine.
All the time. And especially now, I'm like, you can niche into short content. You can niche into documentary content. You can do purely commercial. I don't want to touch that. Please, by all means, take that work.
Yes, I will call you when I have a client that needs that. Like, absolutely. Since we're talking about projects, I'd love to hear about one that you found or are finding right now really rewarding, and maybe just a little bit about that.
Last year was so fun. I could talk about so many, but my very favorite last year was there's a brand called Bo Mei, Bomei, And Mai is the name of the woman who founded it, and she is in New York. So I was able to travel to New York for the first time, which is not something I do all the time, and was fun for that reason alone. But essentially, she started a company named after her 2 little girls who are Asian American. And in kind of the wake of the pandemic and reflecting on her own growing up experience and her husband's growing up experience, she's Vietnamese American, he's Chinese British, and American, I don't know. They're an Asian American family, and both grew up kind of with a foot in each culture, but in a time where she felt like it was safer to kind of be Americanized, and wanted that, and had a hard time growing up that way. And so but now is like seeing that present for her little girls, and was like, I can't do this anymore. And I want to give them my culture and to connect them to their grandparents and all of these things, but I don't know what my culture is, because my growing up experience was that it was supposed to not be that. And it's not anyone's fault. Like, it just is where they were at. And so anyways, she started this company with the whole goal of essentially like giving families a way to connect either back to roots that they are learning as their own adult lives, raising kids, or just connecting with their own experience in general, and doing that in a way that is joy-based and pride-based. Mm-hmm. And so she's just an amazing human in general. It was so fun to get to know her, and really, really the reason we connected so much was because of that kind of human, like, that is not my experience. I was so honored to be able to do that with her and walk that with her, but I have nothing in common with that experience. And so to be invited into that was really special. But she connected with our team because 2 of my coworkers have little girls, and she was like, my schedule is going to be kind of chaotic, and like, I want my girls to be the point of this and part of the filming, but also like, they're going to come home super angry in the middle of a shoot because they need a snack after preschool, and all these things. But anyways, her goal, she launched this subscription box as a start for Lunar New Year. And so there was one box that was to celebrate as a family, have all of these, decorations and the preparations and some of those kind of fun pieces, the gifts and stuff. And then there was an engagement box for kids to do all these crafts, and a storybook that goes in there that kind of talks about the history and ways to just understand, like, why do we even have this tradition? What does this piece mean? What does this lantern mean? And then there was one and products in general, just kind of have a fun way to connect and gift to other people. So it was an amazing product, and she absolutely crushed it. She blew up, which was also just really fun to see because it felt rewarding. And we were like, okay, if you're going to fly me all the way out there and you're going to trust me with this story that is so tender, I want to nail it. And I just hope for you that this incredible vision blows up. And she crushed it. It was such a cool thing to watch unfold. So that project was amazing.
That is so beautiful. I love that so much. And I think all video, like, that's at the core, our goal, right, is the human connection. And, when people are vulnerable enough to show their true selves, and this woman has built her entire business around that, being able to walk alongside that, it feels sacred. It feels like sacred ground when you're with somebody in that very personal moment or journey. So that is so incredible. So last question before we wrap is, if you could sit down with a young person looking to go into videography, like, what advice would you give? How would you encourage that person?
Oh, what do I wish I would have heard? The 2 things that first come to mind are, don't look around you at other people's work unless you're looking around because you connect with it and you connect with them. Like, I still have a rule for myself that I don't follow creators in my own industry unless I know them personally, or if their work is so inspiring to me because it's different than mine that I can just glean like fascination or inspiration from it in like a a genuine way where I'm like, that is not my work. It is theirs, but there is something about their work that I love, or something about them as an owner of a business that I love. So I would say keep connection to your community is different than competition and comparison. So like we get to work with a similar type of client. We have similar passions, but like it's been so much fun to connect with you. And obviously that helped me out immensely when I could trust you completely to just step onto a site for me while I was in an emergency and be like, I don't even have to think about it. Like if I had told you at 8 a.m. that morning that I needed you to show up and we didn't have any of the client prep work done, then I still would have been like, amazing. Whatever you give me will be perfect. So I feel like having relationships with people who have things in common with you has been such a gift to me. But like, keep your eyes down and just enjoy what you're enjoying, and listen to like what you are actually, what do you want to do? Like what play do you have in your work that you want to keep playing? Like, it's just a fun job, and we are really lucky to get to make art for a living. And so I'm like, try to stay grounded in the play, try to stay grounded in what is just like fun for you in general. And then never stop learning and try new things and make ugly work. Like, just, you have to just make ugly work sometimes and get through it.
I love the boundaries that you're basically saying, like, to put around, like, because there is so much video in general. Like, this is the human experience in the world now, is there is so much to consume. And I think that is even more so if you're looking to create, like, you're constantly looking at that. And so to protect yourself with some boundaries, to go like, what are you watching? So that you don't get that inner critic fired up. That could happen. The realm of videography is unique in that it is very male dominated, and we didn't get a chance to talk about that. But so I think I want to bring that up on this note. Like, you know, if that person sitting before you was a young woman thinking about that, like, you know, what have your observations been being a woman going after videography projects, and how might that same question apply?
I want to be really careful with this.
Editing is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I might think on that for a sec. Yeah. Especially because it is a small community. So I'm like, I think part of the other reason that I haven't wanted to like look around me all the time is there is a vibe. Especially when you look at like popular creators, there is a YouTube language, there is a TikTok language, and there is a way of being that isn't wrong, but it's very male in a way that feels similar to, like, I think for a long time in trying to fight for any kind of equality, you had to show up like a man in a corporate space, or in this case, like, even like, what do you wear to a shoot, and what do you what questions do you ask clients? What does your pitch deck look like? And actually, my team and I struggled with this. I don't know if struggled is the right word, but my team and I talked about this a lot when we were first launching. We're an all-female team, which is fun. It's not necessarily intentional. We keep joking, like, should we just like hire a token man? A little taste in the reverse. But we are all women, and we work with some really amazing men and have connected with men as clients a number of times that feel really authentic, and like, and we have friends in the industry who are men. And I just think it took us a long time to feel like we could show up like women. We looked around and we were like, who are our clients, and who have we worked with, and what have they reflected back to us was helpful to them. And so many of our clients are women with kids, or women who are in a certain season of life like we are, or in a certain season of business where, you know, they're like, I'm just super grateful that my toddler can be in the back of this client call because childcare fell through and I didn't have to cancel. And also you can sit there and like go and get your kid while mine's throwing a temper tantrum, or like, you know, just showing up feminine, I think is something that has been really hard to do. when it feels like we're in an industry, web design, media, that there's just a history of showing up one way. And I think I'm being encouraged. I think I've seen a sort of second wave shift in being like, I feel welcome in this space to an extent, but I don't feel like I have to be this one thing. And the times that I disconnect with people are when they talk to me like I should be, or it feels like there's this kind of technical questioning that I'm like, I don't know that answer. It's not important to my business though. So like, I'm really grateful for you that you love your gear. I'm not going to get in a competition with you about talking about what specs are better. And I'm not going to like justify why I don't know those answers, because that's not how I approach my work. And your clients want that and mine don't. And I just am done being insecure, sitting at a table at an award show or something, being like, wow, yeah, I'm so proud of you for not asking me a single question while we've been here for an hour and telling me all about yourself. I don't know if you want to keep that in there or not, but
we've experienced that. And it's interesting, being, I was a silent partner for years because I was still working full time in nonprofit. And 2 years ago, coming in to do this full time so that I can be at home with the kids more, right? And, we're really fortunate that we are really dedicated or committed to working with clients that are good humans. Like, we won't do work that we can't feel good about, right? And if they're not doing work that we feel good at, and the same goes for their character.
Yep.
We've had to walk away from some business that's like, this just isn't in alignment with our values. And I think in that, like, your example of like having the kids around, like, our clients know us. We are a husband-wife team with 3 kids, and we are killing it. But our first priority is we are doing this for our family.
Totally.
And so if my kiddo interrupts on a Zoom call, because I need to press play on, whatever show he's watching, my clients are going to appreciate that time that I've gave them even more, and value the fact that this was at a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, I wonder from the male perspective, like, Nate might have a lot more anxiety having a kiddo walk in on that, because that's not so allowed in the male space.
Yeah.
Right. To have Ansel climb up
forth
on your lap and interrupt a call is like, oh, we will do everything we can to not have that happen, and it's, I think it's universal, exactly what you're saying, to every realm of business is, I don't have to justify my being in this space, right? And anybody that is asking me to, whether that is implied or direct, probably just isn't the person I want to collaborate with or partner with, or you're going to find your person out there. Go be free to find them, you know, and that's kind of the choice we have to make. Every business, that runs has to make those decisions. Like, are we going to take the job just because it pays, or are we going to take it because we are all in alignment here? And, maybe not on every single thing in the world, but on the big stuff.
Yeah. I think that I have talked with especially young women, but just any woman in the media industry who is looking around or having a hard time or fairly new, and said, like, you're going to have people ask you really dumb questions and they're going to hurt your feelings. And like, you don't owe them answers. That's the thing that was hard for me to learn, is like, I don't need to impress you. And if you walk away thinking that I'm unimpressive, why do I care? I don't know you. I don't care about you. I cared about having a great interaction and treating you kindly. And even if you weren't explicitly unkind, you clearly thought that I was small as a human. I don't care what you think about my business. You asked questions of what I am capable of and who I am that were just not important. And so I feel like I would say, be prepared to have people ask you questions that they wouldn't ask a man. And my husband is also in media. And right now he's a teacher. So he's a digital media teacher, and he's amazing. at that and what he does. But we started in photo and video together in tandem in a lot of ways. And when we were at weddings together, they'd be like, "Oh, you're helping your husband." And I'm like, no, he gets a paycheck from me. And he is setting up the lights for me because I'm busy getting the primary shots. And he's not setting up that gear because I don't know how. And he didn't buy me this camera. You know, it's all these things where they're like, or it was for a number of years, I was the primary breadwinner for our family because he was in grad school and, or, you know, going through other life circumstances. We just had the one job. And when that was an entrepreneur position where my income was like our make it or break it, all the time I would get the question, "Oh, you do this full time? That's so fun. What does your husband do?" Or like
you're doing it as a hobby.
Yes, it's like a little side project. And then there was always this like disbelief that we could swing it. And, you know, they're like, "Well, how are you doing? Like, how's your business?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm here working for you, or I'm here working for this person. Like, you happen to be in the room because this person near you hired me. So I'm enjoying this work and they believe in my work." It's just an interesting, I would say, be prepared to answer a lot of questions, and you can't let it get to you because it's irrelevant. Like you were saying, if it's not your person, if it's not your client, if it's not your bud, if it's not someone you're going to refer, and you can't count on them for work, like why does it matter if you walk away and they think you're small?
We've had some really cool interactions in that similar vein, because I've always been like we've talked about it. Our business would not exist without me. Like, you can't, you know, in any healthy marriage, at least, you're not going to have your husband running a full-time business on his own without an amazing wife that's willing to, you know, come alongside and support that.
Totally.
And when I came on, you know, more actively, you know, we were like, do we want to classify ourselves as a woman-owned business? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, well, it has to be at least 51%. Would we classify that? Like, yes, like, absolutely. And I've had people ask before, like, "Well, how does your husband feel about that?" You know, and I was like,
do you think he wasn't part of that decision?
Like, what? How? You know, and I don't touch a lot of the camera and the gear and stuff, you know, because that's just not my passion. That's not what I do. But my passion is people. And if you don't have somebody on the horn calling clients or coordinating or doing all the administrative work, which is very stereotypically female.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's immediately this lesser than. And like I even find myself on my email signature line, you know, I've got owner, admin. And when I put that admin sign, I'm like, oh, but I still put it because I'm like, there is no reason to diminish the administrative work that absolutely is core to any business happening and is not elevated. So we've got, you know, we've got a name that, you know, we don't need to make ourselves smaller.
Exactly.
Right. The world is already doing that. But I definitely feel that, like, sometimes I want to put owner producer.
Yeah.
You know, because yes, that's true, but it's just, I don't identify
Creative
as a
director.
producer. Yeah. Right. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think too, it was interesting because they always ask, like, "Oh, is it like a 50-50 thing?" It's like, I don't know, 99%, 1%. Like, the percentages don't really matter. It's like our business has been way better for it since you came on more actively. And it's, to me, it's not, I don't know. I don't feel any kind of territorial. Like, there's a little bit of territorial from the sheer fact that I was doing so many things a certain way for so many years, like paying bills, invoicing. And it's like I knew how that worked. And so when you came in, you know, and wanted to change it, that there was some, that's exactly how she did it. No, but there was, it was just me having to let go, you know, something that I'm not good at and kind of vulnerable about, like, not being good at invoicing, but letting that go to someone who's really good at it. And it made our business way stronger, you know, and she's
get that money.
And I hate talking about money. Like, that's when I'm sure we'll do an episode about, you know, about money and talking about money and stuff, but I hate talking about money, and she has no qualms about saying, this is our day rate, this is our hourly rate.
I raised money for a nonprofit. Okay.
And you killed it.
And so, like, all I have to do is tell someone, hey, we gave you something, you need to pay. It's much easier than, like, raising money for, like, a cause that I really think you should believe in 100%. But absolutely. Absolutely. And any business, whether you're a married partner or not, like, good leadership is going to identify everybody's strengths, and they're going to say, stop doing what you hate, what drains you, what you're not good at, and let's get you just focused on the stuff you're passionate about and do well.
Yep.
And that's what we do.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
That's why
what
I
we do.
stopped working by myself. I was so exhausted and was clearly not good at some things, and my clients noticed it. Even if we still had a great relationship by the end, I felt the effect. I was stressed out and guilty all the time if I was dropping deadlines or, you know, forgetting to send a document that they needed, or they're like, hey, have you worked on my timeline yet? You know, all these things where I'm like, I did, and then it ended up in drafts and I didn't send it because my brain is flowy. And so now, well, there were so many reasons why I joined a team, but I feel deeply the effect of the strengths of my coworkers who are my you and keep me 100% afloat, and my quality of life is better and my work-life balance is better. It's funny, I'm always impressed when a husband-wife team or any kind of partner team can do well, because my husband and I did not do well in that. And it's funny when it's like, how do you run home well and you're great partners in life, and then you cross the business threshold and you're like, oh, I'm going to fire you in 2 minutes. And we were very artsy competition and matched each other's strengths in some ways that wasn't helpful, and then had the same gaps missing. But it is, I think partnership in general at all, it's exactly like what you're saying, like how to, you know.
And that's one of the strengths, is the fact that he and I are so different that there is no me trying to attempt to do, like, tell him how to do the videography and the artsy stuff. And when it comes to the strategy and the customer relations and stuff, like, I think he's 100% behind me, you know, and there's always communication challenges there, but there should be, I think there's a lot of shame for people that have attempted to do a family business, and we're like, why couldn't we make that work? And it's like, that's the same as any other business.
It's so
Sometimes
hard.
that person needs to go somewhere else and find a better fit for them.
Yep.
You know, and that sucks anyway. Like, that's hard as a boss or a leader to have to tell someone you're gone. But like, you know, I can't imagine being in that role as a spouse. And like, if you are, like, have the conversation, get out of that, because you want to enjoy your person. And if work is the thing that's making you hate your person, like, be gone, like, get out of that. Right.
I rebuke that.
Yes, I rebuke that in the name of videography. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. In the name of a healthy business and marriage. Amen. That's one other thing that you made me, what was it? Oh, one other thing about being a woman in this industry, that you said something that just sparked this, but it does feel like the entry point for men is so much lower, in like the expectations of the quality of work they need to produce. And by that, I don't even mean like, did you make beautiful art? But like, we've gotten so much feedback from clients who had even normal experiences before, but just decided to, you know, make a second video years later or whatever. And they've been like, this was so organized and I felt so at peace. I never had to ask a question. You beat me to the punch. None of that had anything to do with me. Let me be very clear. I can produce something pretty and wonderful for you. I'm confident in my role there, but it felt like so many times over and over we heard this experience with you women was so smooth and comforting. And I think it is, for better or worse, because there is this kind of natural narrative that women need to be good at those administrative things. It's kind of that directory, secretary, house manager role.
Anticipating everyone's needs.
Exactly. And then being in trouble if you didn't already know them and you didn't already figure it out. But yeah, it's one of the things that we're proud of now, because we've gotten that feedback a lot. But I also think that I run into still a lot of colleagues in the industry who I hear from people drop balls all the time, but they're landing these big clients, or they're producing work that I've seen them make 1 million times. And it's not even to like bash them. It's just, I think that there's a standard of work that women are held to where you're supposed to be able to do it all. You're supposed to do the 17 hats thing and be perfect in all of these things. And if you drop an administrative ball, it, I think, lands a lot heavier. And I also think there's just this assumption that a man that steps into a media industry is like, oh, well, you must be so talented. And you're like, yeah, probably. But also, I've been doing this 8 years longer than you. And I wish that we could be buds who like taught each other. And it feels instead like there's this inherent trust of you and your work, no matter how long you've been in it, because you bought a nice camera, which is my other thing, is do not think the gear will work for you. You have to know how to work your gear. Yeah. And my philosophy, also because I'm kind of cheap, is I don't upgrade my gear until my gear is holding me back from work I know I could create. Yes. And I think I see a lot of people, men, women, anyone. This is what I would tell someone new in general. You can find a beautiful piece of gear, and if you don't know how to use it, you wasted your own money, and you're not learning the same thing you would learn if you have to kind of struggle through a less spec heavy piece of gear. Like, and that is sort of all the way back to, I have this like dark room mentality where I'm like, learn how to do it with your own two hands.
Kids these days don't know how we used to do it.
What do you think dodge and burn means? But it is like, like learn how you are as an artist. Don't lean on gear to do work for you. Because that's also, you hear that from all of these annoying old uncles that are like, well, I mean, you must have a really nice camera. And you're like, no, I'm a good artist. And that's annoying all the way across artists. I feel like every artist has to justify that for themselves. You're like, no, I did this. A nice camera is a really amazing perk. And I'm grateful for when every single time I upgrade, I'm like, why didn't I do this 2 years ago? But I also am still going to wait until it feels like my gear has outrun me.
And it'll feel so good when you do, like, right? Like, and waiting for it, like it just, that hunger is there.
And I always say is like, we try to make a point to mention that it's a tool, right? Yeah. And it's like, having a tool, and sometimes, having like a nice camera or renting a nice camera can inspire you, because you're like, it opens up, these things that I could do as far as, the shots or composition. If it has a wide dynamic range, like, I can shoot in broad daylight and it's not going to blow out the highlights, and I can still see the stuff in the shadows, and that opens this opportunity for shots that I can capture, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's still a tool, and I totally see what resonate with, and I've been around those folks that are like, oh, well, I can shoot this many frames per second at this, bit rate, in this resolution, and it's like, good,
That's so great for you.
But a lot of times it's like, if you're not out there, like trying to creating, it sits on a shelf and looks pretty, or sits in a box, and I think the camera that gets used is the best camera, and that's why they always say, the best camera is the one that you have with you, and a lot of those times now tends to be our cell phones, right? And so
which can make incredible content. I feel like every single phone that's on the market right now is like literally twice as like spec heavy as the camera I started on and built my business for 4 years on. Like I shot on a T5i, which is like miles behind any phone that's on the market
Nikon
right now.
D90, and I go back and look at those files. This is over 15 years ago? I don't know. Yeah, probably 15 years ago. But look at those old D90 files in 720. It's like,
you're delivering.
It's like, how did I thought those were amazing.
And at the time they were. That's the thing, is that it was like, and that's also, I think, part of the lesson for me in gear is like, you have to know who you are as an artist and what you're good at in your job, because it's going to outrun you in a year and a half. Like, there's always going to be something new. You're always going to have to learn how to pivot and like figure out new trends, but also new gear. And if you're chasing this expensive snowball of like, you're not caught up, you're not doing enough. Because that's the other thing about gear is you cannot compare the work that you are doing to, like, you can't assume that someone with better gear is a better artist or a better client manager, or has even like their business might not be thriving just because they look fancy does not mean that they're doing well, that they're enjoying their work.
I have to remind myself that daily. The Instagram is a highlights reel, you know, and maybe they haven't had a job for a month, but they're posting stuff from, in the past to make it look like they're busy or whatever, and I don't know, but that's something we struggle with as far as like social media strategy, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yes.
Social media strategy, but
don't ask me back for that one. I would cry. I want to listen to that episode with whoever you bring in that has answers for it.
We haven't decided
We'll
yet.
get there.
Yeah,
We will have
we've
you
been
back
mulling-
sometime,
mulling.
though, I think,
Yeah.
because this was just awesome.
Yeah, it's been a
Amanda,
really good
thank you.
conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. If you are listening to this on your favorite platform, just know that you can catch the video version of it at youtube.com/@slabvisuals. We just had a blast talking to Amanda Muchmore-Parker. She is the imagery director of Averson Creative and just doing amazing work in the field and just rocking it. And we're just so grateful for her.
Media master.
Media master.
You gotta get her that shirt.
Song. I don't know. Yes.
Yeah.
Swag
And
will be
we're-
out
we're-
soon with that on the back of it.
There we go.
My face on the front.
I love that.
So where can they, Media Master, find you online? Where can they see some of your stuff? And yeah.
So all of my brand work, which is in tandem with my amazing team, is at Averson Creative. So Averson creative.com. And then my personal work, I still do family photos and stuff. So fun little things is at amandamuchmore.com. And then Averson Creative is on Instagram with averson.creative. And then I am Amanda Muchmore-Parker.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Being with us.
Oh my
And
gosh,
thank
such an
you,
honor.
Listeners and viewers out there. And yeah, definitely
Something.
go create something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pull out whatever camera's near you.
That's right.